Well, let's get going, just for the being sensitive to everyone's time. First and foremost, I want to thank you for coming today. I'm Diane Riley, the president of Carson and Saint, for those of you who may not know me. With me today, I have our marketing coordinator, Quinn Hopkins, our sales account manager, Tiffany Tuss, and our CTO, Sam Kline, who is the mastermind behind Saint. Next slide. During our time today, we're going to give you a brief overview of Carson and Saint. For those of you who are new to us, the latest industry recognition and the updates that will be released in 9.10 on November 2nd. And then to follow is a brief demo by Sam Kline to showcase the latest updates. Next slide. So about Carson and Saint. Carson and Saint is a product and services company offering a wide range of security service solutions, and of course our award-winning Saint Security Suite, which is our vulnerability management solution, which is also commercially sold worldwide. Our client base is comprised of both public and private customers serving many different verticals, to include managed service providers, healthcare, education, government, and more. We bring a deep experience with over 20 years in cybersecurity and bring a holistic approach to security, offering cybersecurity technologies and industry-specific solutions. Our services are comprised of compliance as a service, so think of CMMC or payment card industry or NIST, FISMA, HIPAA, and many, many others. Vulnerability scanning, of course, penetration testing, security assessments, and program development, and much, much more. Also, Saint was also introduced to the market in 1998 and has had many first-to-market solutions, to include, we were first to industry to offer integrated vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. We were first to market with cloud-based vulnerability scanner, WebSaint, and integrated scanner and penetration test solution. We were first to industry with the IPv6 protocol, and also our vulnerability assessment SCAP solution, this validated for all 6 platforms. We were also first to market with vulnerability management product on the AWS marketplace, which is very exciting for us. So it's like bring your own license as well. Saint products consistently have earned a high rating from the SE magazine with annual vendor roundups. We've won 5-star awards consistently since 2006. We've also even received Industry Innovator Hall of Fame awards for not only the scanner, but also for the integration of our vulnerability testing and penetration testing. But what I'm most excited about is our next slide, please, Quinn. Is our recent industry recognition that we have received from the Infotech Research Group Software Review earlier this year. And we were featured in this review, and we are very, very proud to announce that we are not only a Data Quadrant winner, but received a gold medal by Software Reviews in Vulnerability Management, in addition to the category of likeliness to recommend. We ranked first place. And we thank you for those of you who participated in that survey. Next slide, Quinn. Additionally, the analysis was also looked at Saint and some of our competitors, but the main contenders in the vulnerability management tools in the cybersecurity market space. So in this graph, you will see how Saint ranked in the product feature satisfaction category of risk prioritization and remediation from that of our competitors. And we were happy to hear that our customers have really found value in our tool. Next slide. And this last graph that I wanted to mention illustrates the same comparison, but in the category of asset discovery. Saint ranked higher than all of our competitors. And we're super, super excited about that. So we wanted to make sure that you all were well aware of that, and we have more information on this latest software review, and we can certainly send that to you. So with that good news, I will turn it over to Sam Kline and have him bring you up to date on the Saint release 9.10. Sam?
Thanks, Diane. So we have a lot of exciting new features coming out in 9.10, which is codenamed Callisto. And first and foremost is the reporting improvements. So it had been a while since we've really made any big changes to our report template. This version is going to include a big change. We've brought our reporting up to date. We have redesigned reports. We have new types of charts and graphs with a more dashboard kind of look and feel in the summary section instead of kind of the section summary that we had before. And I'll show you a little bit more about that when we get to the demo. We also have new options to sort the vulnerabilities independently of host. If you're a longtime Saint user, you're probably aware that the vulnerability list always comes out grouped by host. And now you have the ability to sort by vulnerabilities instead. And you can also sort the vulnerabilities by CVSS v3. We previously had the ability to sort by CVSS v2. Now we can also sort by version 3. Besides the reporting improvements, we're also introducing a new option for high availability architecture. So if you're running an environment where you need to have guaranteed uptime, then this might be the right architecture for you. This allows you to simultaneously run multiple synchronized manager instances. You can run them in different availability zones to increase your uptime, and you can run them behind a load balancer, so that the load balancer will always send you to one of the machines which is up when you're trying to log into the web interface. This can also help with load balancing. So if you're running in an environment where you need more scalability, this type of architecture could work for you as well. Okay, next slide. Also coming out in this release is integration with Infoblox. So if you're currently an Infoblox customer, you may be tired of copying your target IP addresses from the Infoblox grid manager into Saint by hand. Well, now we have them integrated. So you can log into Saint, put in your Infoblox credentials, and import your targets right into a Saint scan and scan it from there. And I'll demonstrate that a little bit later in the demo as well. And finally, exclusion expiration dates. So this is something that's been requested by more than one customer, is that when you create an exclusion, you want to wait for it to automatically expire so that you can reevaluate that false positive again in a few months to make sure it's still a false positive. And that's something that we're introducing in 9.10 as well. So without further ado, let me share my screen and I'm going to demo some of these features. So here you see the Saint web interface, which is probably familiar to most of you. And we're looking here at the reports grid. So I'm going to start off by generating a new report. So far it's pretty familiar. It looks the same as it always did before. We still have our report types here. But the full scan, the top three in particular, the full scan, the vulnerability, the dashboard, these three templates have been redesigned. And I'll show you what they look like in a minute. The trend report has also been redesigned. And in case you liked the old full and vulnerability reports as they were, never fear, we still have those. They're down here in the legacy category, in case you still want to use the old report templates. So we're going to go ahead and generate the new full scan report. So it comes up in a new tab. And as you can see, the look and feel has changed quite a bit. So we no longer have all these separate sections of summary information spread out over multiple pages. Now we have all this information in a dashboard type of structure all on the first page. So you get a lot more summary information on the first page now than you did before. And if you look, we have a lot of different type of information represented in the summary as well. In particular, over here on the left, where it says the highest CSV2 base score, we have a gauge pointing to 7.8. So that's a new type of chart that we added to the summary section. Also, we have the breakdown of hosts by host type. So we can see of the 5 hosts scanned, 2 were Linux and 3 were Windows. Plus all of the other type of information that we had before, such as vulnerabilities by severity, hosts by severity, and the vulnerabilities by category. Also your top 5 hosts and your top 5 vulnerabilities. Below that is pretty familiar. We've changed the color scheme a little bit to have kind of a softer color scheme, more modern. But other than that, the rest of the layout is pretty familiar. We have our host list, our vulnerability list, and then further down we have our tutorial information with all of the technical details about the vulnerabilities that were detected. So these new report types are really the headliner of the Saint 9.10 release, but we also have a number of other potentially useful features, which I'll go over now. So I'm going to go back to our job wizard. So the wizard itself hasn't changed, but there is one of our scan policies which has changed, and that's the discovery scan policy. So I bring up discovery. So in past versions, the discovery scan did nothing but detect live IP addresses. The discovery policy is the only scan policy that does not require a license key in order to run it. The discovery policy is designed just to give you information about your network before you actually use up any of your license capacity. And that's still the case here. The discovery policy is still the policy that you can run without a license key, but now it does a little bit more. Now, besides just detecting live targets, it's also going to do host type fingerprinting. So your discovery scan will tell you not just how many targets you have on your network, but also what types they have. And then you can choose based on OS type. You may decide to do a discovery and then just scan the Windows targets or just scan the Linux targets that were discovered. So that's a pretty handy feature. And while I'm in the wizard, I also want to show you another new feature which is coming out, which I talked about before, and that's the Infoblox integration. So we go over here, and if we click on more options, there's a new choice here, second from the bottom, and that's import targets from Infoblox. So if you're an Infoblox Grid Manager user, then you already have your Infoblox credentials. I'll put them in here. And from here, we can grab our targets from the Infoblox Grid Manager and import them directly into the same scan job so that they can be scanned. We have 3 different ways of importing. You can import by specifying the subnet you want to import, an IP range you want to import, or the zone you want to import. So in this case, I'm going to choose the subnet. So I put in our subnet, which is 10.0.0.0 in CIDR notation. And I click on import. And there you have it. It found 4 targets in that subnet, and they're immediately added to our selected targets list. So from here on out, we just continue through the wizard in the usual manner, and then click finish to scan those Infoblox targets. So that could be a convenient time-saving feature for those of you who are already Infoblox customers. And we have more plans to enhance that feature coming up in the following version, 9.11. Next thing I want to show you, which I had mentioned previously, is the exclusion expiration. So if we go to our analytics grids, and here we have all the vulnerabilities that were detected in the scan. And you'll notice over here on the left, for each vulnerability, there is a scissors icon. Now that icon isn't new. We've always had the exclusions feature. However, when I click on exclude, you may notice there is a new choice here. And that is right here in the middle. It says apply this exclusion to new scans until someone deletes it. And we can change that. So in the past, you create an exclusion, you choose to set it for all jobs and all targets, and then that vulnerability will permanently be hidden for all future scans. However, in real life, you usually want to reevaluate your exclusions from time to time. If you decide something's a false positive now, you might want to reevaluate it in 3 months or 6 months and decide again whether it's still a false positive or whether you now decide that it's not, or whether you decide you want to accept the risk now, but you might want to reevaluate in a few months to decide whether you can still accept the risk of that vulnerability and whether you still want to hide it. So the default, as it was before, is to apply the exclusion until someone deletes it manually. However, we can now choose an expiration date. If we click in here, that brings up a date picker, and we can choose, for example, say we want to choose December 31st of this year. So now this vulnerability, if it comes up again in scans, will continue to be excluded, but only until the end of this year. Starting next year, if this vulnerability gets detected again, this exclusion will no longer apply and it'll no longer be hidden from our results. Now, one other thing you may have noticed throughout the course of this demo is there's this new alert up here at the top. It says missing packages on node. So this is a pretty convenient feature, especially if you're running a multi-node installation with many remote nodes. In the past, you always had to do the package management for those remote nodes one by secure shelling into each node and manually installing any package dependencies. That's the case no more. Now that can all be done through one management interface. So if we click on missing packages on node, we see here that it shows us that we have one node which has missing package dependencies. It's highlighted in red over here. And that's the West node. And on our nodes grid, there is a new icon here, which is this little suitcase icon. If you click on that, then it tells you what packages are missing on that remote node. So this is a time saver. All you have to do is just click on install packages. I'm not going to do it right now because I don't want to take the time during the demo. But all you have to do is just click on install packages and it'll bring those package dependencies up to date to make sure that all of your remote nodes are always running with all of the prerequisite packages. And if you happen to have a lot of nodes, say 40 or 50 nodes that are all missing packages, well, fear not, you don't have to click on this button one by one for all of them. You can just select all here, and then from the grid actions menu, choose install packages on scanner nodes. And then from there, you just click on install packages, and it'll go ahead and send a task to all the nodes at once to update those packages. And then they'll each do so in the background. So that's another convenient feature, especially for distributed installations of SANE. And that's about it for the things that I wanted to show you today. I mean, there are some other features which are coming out, which you can read about in our newsletters, but I've already touched on the major new ones which are coming out in 9.10. Of course, this is just focused on the new features coming out in 9.10. If you would like to see a demo of all of SANE from top to bottom, we're happy to do that for you as well on a separate meeting. Feel free to contact Tiffany Tuss and she can set that up for you. So for now, I can take any questions if anyone has them. Feel free to go ahead and type questions into the chat window.
Yeah, I actually do have 2 questions for you, Sam.
Okay.
The first one is, we would like to see a sample report from the new discovery scan showing the host fingerprinting that you described earlier.
Okay. I don't see that. Okay, was that sent to you?
Yeah, it was a direct message.
Okay, can you repeat the question?
Yep. We would like to see a sample report from the new discovery scan showing the host fingerprinting that you described.
Oh, okay. I can do that. So I'm just going to go ahead. I don't already have a canned sample of that, but I can go ahead and run one right now. So I'm going to discover a range here, 10, 7 to 10, 20. Hold on, I have the wrong kind of key in for that. All right. Okay, so I'll let that run. So while that runs, are there any other questions?
Yeah, I have one more question. Do the new
Okay.
report formats apply only if PDF output is selected?
No, the new report formats are visible in PDF, HTML, or RTF. In fact, while this runs, I'm going to go to our reports and show you what the same report would look like in HTML format. So I'm bringing up the same report in HTML. It's pretty much the same concept. You have a dashboard-like look and feel. The layout may be a little bit different depending on the resolution in your browser. So in this case, the rows are a little wider, but it's still basically the same idea. It's the same information presented as it was before. And these are available in RTF as well. Let me go back and see how our discovery scan was doing. Okay, so it has finished. So I'm going to go ahead and generate a report. Okay, so we see that there were 5 hosts scanned. It's telling us there were 2 Linux, 2 Windows, and 1 other. So there was one that it either couldn't identify or it was neither Linux nor Windows. And then down here in the host list, it tells us exactly what it found. So it found a Windows Server 2012, a Windows Server 2016, and 2 Linuxes and 1 that it couldn't identify. So once the discovery scan has been done, you can then go in and schedule another scan based on it. So I'm going to go to my job wizard again. And this time I'm going to schedule a full vulnerability scan. And from the more options, I'm going to choose targets from a previous scan. And then here are the targets that it picked up in the discovery scan. So at this point, we can choose all of them by clicking on that box. Or if we want to just scan the Windows machines, we can filter on Linux there and then choose the box. Or likewise, we could also filter on Linux and choose those. So once the discovery scan is done, it's easy to just go in and either just scan them all or else pick and choose which ones you want to scan. Are there any other questions?
We did have another question, but I think Tiffany answered it, but we can go over it for everybody. Gabriel asked, why does it say that IP range could exceed the license if you said discovery didn't require license? I mean, could we scan a whole 24 net without having all my license IPs occupied? Only with discovery.
Yeah, so with the discovery scan, the scan does not count toward your license and it doesn't require the license key. So yeah, in that case, it was just telling you a warning that if you had chosen a different scan policy, then there would be a license capacity issue. But in this case, you could have just ignored the warning since the discovery scan doesn't require the license anyway.
Awesome. I think that's all the questions we got for now.
Okay, great.
We'll go ahead and wrap up. This is Tiffany, everybody, and I do apologize. I have come down with a cold, so my voice sounds funny. I appreciate everybody taking the time to join today. If you guys would like a one-on-one demo, please feel free to reach out to me. If you'd like to just get more information and you're new to Saint and would like some new supporting documentation, also please feel free to reach out to me. We're here to assist and make sure you're happy.